Hello all, Dave here, and today we're going to have a look at the Inov-8 Ultrapac Pro 8. And I'll let you know why I think this might be a contender to compete with some of the best running packs on the market. I decided to pick this pack up as my old Salomon Sense Pro 10 vest is looking a bit worse for wear after heavy use for a couple of years. And Inov-8 had a generous 50% off on this vest for Black Friday last year. So I decided to pull the trigger. And now that I've been running in it for a couple of months, from daily runs, taking it on holiday, to long runs with a filled pack, I'm ready to give my views on this vest. Let's start by talking about some of the details of the Ultrapac Pro 8. As many of you might have guessed from the name, it's an 8-litre running pack, although it does feel a lot bigger than that in reality. It comes in 3 sizes, small, medium and large, which does seem more limited than some other brands like Salomon, for example, but looking at the size ranges in inches, it does cover quite a wide range, and there's lots of adjustments you can make on the Ultrapac Pro 8 as well, so it fits you just right. But we'll talk about that more in just a bit. For colour options, you'd better like black, as it's the only colour you can get this vest in. And lastly, price-wise, it comes in at £130 here in the UK. Now I look for 3 main things in the running pack: storage, comfort and the hydration package. Let's start with hydration. The pack comes with 2 of these Inov-8 branded bottles made by Hydrapack, I believe. Now the unique feature of the Ultrapac Pro 8 is that you've got 2 different options for where you can store these bottles. As standard, the bottles come with long hoses attached and mounted in the pockets on the side of the vest here. However, you can convert these to standard bottle tops and mount them in the more traditional format, having them in the 2 pockets on the front of the vest. When I first got the vest, I must admit I wasn't convinced I'd like the long hose format, but after trying it for a couple of months, I actually really like it. The weight of the bottles is lower down and there's less bounce in my opinion. I also think it's easier to drink from these straws as they're closer to your face, which could be important in longer races where you might forget to drink or just get lazy. Also, one annoying thing I've noticed with my Salomon vest, having the bottles in the front with the hard bottoms, over longer races I actually started getting bruising on my ribs from the bottles bouncing up and down. This Inov-8 pack eliminates that if you store the bottles on the side. There are some downsides to this though, as taking the bottles out and filling them at aid stations, for example, could be a pain and lead to some spillages. It'll take some practice to get used to this system, and getting the bottles out the top pocket without the long hoses attached is definitely easier. Oh, and before I forget, you can mount a bladder if you wanted to in the rear compartment of this vest. There's a little tab for you here to secure it, and then you can feed the hose through to the front of the vest. I don't use hydration bladders really, as I find them a pain to refill at aid stations. But what I might do on some longer training runs is store 4 bottles in this vest and make use of all the bottle storage options, which gives this vest the ability to carry 2 litres worth of bottles. Now, I touched on storage earlier, and it will be affected by where you place these bottles, but I'll run you through all the pockets on this vest now. To start with, you have these 2 small pockets on the front of the vest. These are made from a slightly stretchy mesh, and I'd probably put some small snacks in here, salt tablets or a small pack of wipes, something like that if I needed it. A bit further down you have these 2 quite deep, narrow pockets. This is where you'd store your water bottles if you decide to go for the more traditional chest-mounted method. And if you don't opt to store your bottles in these pockets though, they're quite nice to store anything you want to easily reach. I'd normally put my phone in here or my camera gear, but they're also great for snacks and gels. On one side of the vest you get quite a deep pocket. It's made from a more robust materials and it's perfect for storing more snacks. Although I'd be careful with gel packets, as some of them might have sharp corners and it feels like they could easily poke through this thin material. On the other side you get the exact same pocket, but this time it gets a zip. So this is where I'd normally put my valuables that I didn't want to risk falling out of any of the other pockets. Although these 2 pockets have quite a decent amount of space, they will be cut down quite a lot if you decide to store the water bottles on your chest. Just below these again, you get 2 very deep mesh pockets which are used to store the bottles if you have the hoses attached. Again, if you decided to free up these pockets, you can fit quite a lot in here, but it does extend around to your back. So if you want to access anything easily, it can be quite annoying trying to find something specific in these pockets if they're full. Lastly, on the front, you get two more gigantic stretchy pockets, which are overlaid on top of the bottle pockets. This is a 360-degree pocket, which goes all the way around the pack. I'd probably store some extra bottles in here if I needed them, or my waterproofs, for example. Anything you put in here is easily reachable, as you can access the pockets from the top down. However, if whatever you put in here works around while you're running to your back, it can be a bit challenging to take out without having to take the pack off, unless you've got pretty good mobility in your arms, which I definitely don't. Nonetheless, there's tons of space in here, but I'd be careful about putting anything too valuable in here, as it looks like the pocket where stuff is most likely to fall out of, simply due to how stretchy and loose the material is. Going round to the back of the pack now, there's a large open compartment in the back here. This is where I'd store my kit, which I'd put in my dry bags, or bits that I don't need to access that often. Unfortunately, I think this compartment is one of the only letdowns for this pack. The opening's quite narrow, and it'll be a pain to try and get your stuff in and out of here in the race when you have all your mandatory kit in the back there. There's also no zip or any way of fastening this compartment, which many other packs do have. Although I don't think much is likely to fall out, the fact that they've made the opening narrow to secure that compartment is annoying enough. They could have just made the top wider and fitted a zip, or better still, made it a side opening zip, like my old Salomon pack. Lastly, on storage, there's two places to store running poles if you want to use them. First, there are some loops on the front here, where you can store one pole on each side of the vest. This method makes the poles the most accessible, but I find with the poles on the front it irritates me as they interfere with my arms during my running. Also, it may just be me, but it feels like it makes the vest storage a bit less accessible as well. The second location where you can mount these poles is my preferred options, which is across the back. They fit just under the rear compartment on these loops here. They make the poles harder to reach though, and it does limit the 360 pocket in terms of storage. Ultimately though, I probably wouldn't use any of these pole mounts. I've always found that having a running belt with a pole loops just makes carrying poles a lot easier. I'd rather have that than overloading my running pack, but at least there's a couple of options here for you if you do want to store your poles on your pack. Okay, so moving on to comfort, I think this is really the Inov-8 Ultrapac Pro 8's strong point for me. Of course, fit can be subjective, but for me it fits like a glove. The shape of the pack is pretty much like any other running pack out there, but the unique feature for me is the materials which Inov-8 have used and the adjustment system. For the material, most of the pack seems to be made from some sort of a 3D mesh, so two thin layers of mesh with a thicker mesh sandwiched in the middle. This creates an air gap between the material against your skin and the material on the outside of the pack, which really does aid with airflow. One thing I really hated on my Salomon pack was how wet the pack got once I'd been sweating in it for a while. But that hasn't happened in the Inov-8 pack yet, so it seems like this material's working. In terms of adjustment, you get two horizontal straps across the chest which you can move up and down depending on your preferences. And there's two elasticated cords you can pull located on the inside of each side pocket. These tighten the pack up across the side, so this is a really nice extra element which allows you to dial in the fit as to how you prefer it to be. Not only does the fit make the pack comfortable, it also virtually eliminates any bounce for me, even when my pack is full. So to sum my thoughts up, starting with the positive, I quite like the storage on the front of the vest. There's ample storage for everything you might need, even on the longest of races. I find having the bottles lower down on the vest is more comfortable for me personally, as the weight is placed lower down on my body. And the material Inov-8 have used on this vest is very breathable, which will help a lot in terms of comfort, especially in the summer. Now, I know I talked a lot about positives, as I genuinely think this is a great vest, but there are a couple of things I think Inov-8 really need to change for future iterations. Firstly, that back storage compartment really needs to be wider and sealed with a zip. I really don't like the fact it's open. Secondly, the vest only comes in one colour, black. Now, we all know black absorbs a lot more heat than lighter colours, and I really think this could be a problem for hotter races or runs. I've done races where it's been over 35 degrees, and I honestly try and wear it as little black as possible. It would have been great to have some different colours, maybe a blue or a red option, and I think it's something Inov-8 should definitely consider for the future. But I think the Inov-8 Ultrapac 8 is a great pickup if you want a good all-round comfortable running pack for training or ultra distances from 50 to 100 miles. And I think Inov-8 tend to have quite a few sales on throughout the year, so if you can pick this up for a good deal, I'd definitely say it's worth it. As always, please ask away if you have any questions. And if you're liking the videos which I'm making, then please give me a like or a sub. That would mean a lot to me. But for now, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the review.